Okay, good afternoon. Thank you very much for coming for this session. I think we can start. My name is Memory Ngui. I'm an occupational psychologist working under industrial psychology consultants. I'm going to take you through a presentation on career guidance, especially information that you would need as parents so that you can guide your children in the right direction. What I'm going to share with you is what we know from science. I'm sure you'll also be able to share with us your own experiences with what you've been doing in terms of helping your own children to choose careers. But I'll share with you what we find from science and my own experience as a psychologist doing assessments for children as from Form 1 up to those already in degree level. So I'll share that information with you and we can have a discussion. If you want to ask any questions privately, there is a chat room there. You can put your question in the chat room. You can choose private. If you want to ask a public question, you can actually put the question as a public question and I will respond to the questions. What I would prefer we do is that we do the questioning at the end so that I can go through the information, but I'll still answer all your questions. We'll also give you an opportunity at the end to ask questions directly without putting it on the chat. All options are available. I would like to thank Peterhouse for this opportunity to talk to parents with kids at Peterhouse, and also Mrs. Kickman for arranging this with Tandeka from our side. And I hope a lot of you will benefit from this particular presentation. Thank you. If you've got any questions midway and it's urgent, you can also raise your hand. Hopefully I will see you because I put my presentation in presentation mode. My team can also help me. I've got Tandeka, Muno, and Linda also in the session. Okay. So I think we can start to talk about what you need to know as parents with regard to career guidance. But maybe before you do that, I just give you a bit of background on myself. I said I'm an occupational psychologist. I am registered with the Allied Health Professions Council. As you know that all psychologists, practicing psychologists are governed by statutes and they must comply with the relevant statutes. So whether you're an occupational clinical psychologist or a forensic psychologist, you need to be registered. You need to have a practicing certificate, one, which you get once you qualify. You need to have you need to have a registration certificate, which you get once you qualify. Then you need to get your practicing certificate renewed every year, subject to a lot of conditions. So what are the things that you need to know as parents? When you look at careers for children, these are the foundation. This is the foundation, basically. These are the 5 things that I would think you need to take note of. The first one is a cognitive ability, or what is called general mental ability. This is not accumulated knowledge, and normally it's not knowledge that you find learned knowledge from an individual. It's mostly innate abilities. I'll show you shortly. So this is the foundation. Without cognitive ability or general mental ability for a particular profession or career, it will be very unlikely that the person will succeed. There is a lot of evidence to support this, scientific evidence to support that people need to have the necessary cognitive ability. For your own information, research done by Schmidt in 2016 showed that cognitive ability or general mental ability predicts performance across all roles, across all levels. But it is more important in roles that are more complicated, in roles that need more thinking. But for every role, a person with better cognitive ability tends to do better in a particular profession and role. Cognitive ability, again, tend to predict a lot of positive life outcomes. Those with higher cognitive ability tend to have better life and better life outcomes. And there is a lot of evidence to support that. But it doesn't necessarily mean those who do not have a lot of cognitive ability will not succeed. It just means they have to choose the right professions for themselves that suit the level of cognitive ability that they have. We're all different. We don't have the same level of cognitive ability. Then personality, again, very important. Personality will help you in terms of motivation. If the child has got a certain personality type, it may be suited to a particular kind of profession. We do know that in practice, there is mismatch between the personality of the individual and the careers that they choose. Those personalities generally how you behave across situations, very stable, even into late adulthood. Then your interests also play a big part. We'll talk more about this. I'll show you why this is important. The interest of the child, very important. What are they interested in? Do they want to be an engineer? Do they want to be a pilot? Do they want to be a marketer? Do they want to be a manager? All these things do have an impact in terms of how you can then choose careers for your children. Availability of career choices. This one, I know a lot of parents place a lot of emphasis on it, but I would not put a lot of emphasis on it. I'll put a lot of emphasis broadly in a career area. For example, if someone wants to go into the sciences, what do they need? If someone wants to go into the arts, what do they need? If someone want to go into teaching or social sciences, what do they need? Rather than choosing a particular career. Yes, you can, depending on what level you are. If someone is in Form 1, Form 2, they may not even have an idea of what, in terms of what they want. So it's actually a better idea to start saying, I want you to be an engineer. But what you can say is they've got an interest or their cognitive ability shows that they are really focused on, they've got the ability, the sciences, as I'll show you how we interpret that. So career, and also monetary benefits. Do we know that parents sometimes choose careers for their children on the basis of monetary benefits? So 4 and 5, although they look very important, I would not put a lot of emphasis on them. For example, if you choose on the basis of remuneration now, remuneration changes. At some stage, we know IT people were really at the top in terms of what was required in different countries. But that careers do come out of fashion as economic fundamentals change. Okay, so you don't necessarily have to go into a particular career because there's more money now, because it depends on the country, it depends on the economic environment of the country, but there are careers generally that tend to earn more than others. If you use that kind of benchmark, it's important. But if you are going to just say more money, which careers are available, you may actually mislead your child into getting a career that is very difficult or that may not exist after they are finished. I'm sure you have seen a lot of evidence from the World Economic Forum showing that there are certain careers that will not be there 20 years from now. And some of the children actually pursuing careers that may not exist even 10 years from now because of the rapid economic and the technological changes that are taking place now. So where does it start? It's all starting in the home. The parents, the home environment, and the school environment are all crucial, as I will show you. So here is the important part that you need to take note of. Cognitive ability, which is the anchor of any career, or general mental ability, and personality are both largely hereditary and partly childhood experience. Estimates put it at roughly between 70 to 80% of both personality and cognitive ability are all partly hereditary. And the remainder is partly childhood experience. Early childhood experience, as I'll show you later on, early childhood experience, very crucial. So what are the implications of this? The implications are that there is a portion that you won't be able to influence as a parent. There's a portion that you won't be able to influence as a teacher, but you don't give up because there's a bigger portion that you can influence as a teacher. There's a bigger portion that you can influence as a parent or a guardian of a particular child. But I also do know that there are certain people at some age, maybe my age, 48 years, and someone want to change to start saying on the basis of cognitive ability, you need to go into this career, or want to improve my cognitive ability at 49. That is not going to happen. Most of the time, it would be a waste of resources. I can change careers, yes, broadly careers that are related to my general mental ability. Those are set in childhood. It's fine to have those with no problem at all. Then here are some of the facts. It doesn't matter how bright or personal suited someone is to a particular career. If they don't like the career, it's again create problems for you. The person has to like what they're going to be doing. But also remember, interests, unlike cognitive ability and personality, interests do change over time. Cognitive ability and personality rarely change over time. They do, but in very rare circumstances. In cases where there is injury, which alters the makeup of the person in terms of the brain, accidents do change the personality and the cognitive makeup of individuals. Normally, they decrease, okay? But also, there have been studies showing that there is what is called cognitive decline due to sickness and other ailments. There is even an intelligent person can start showing signs of not being very intelligent because of sickness and other changes that may happen. So cognitive ability is the most important. It doesn't matter how much interest you have in an area, as long as you do not have the cognitive ability for that area, it won't work. But there are also other arguments of people saying, okay, my child may be interested in sport, good, but that is the ability that they have. But also remember, even those that are going into sports, they still need a certain level of cognitive ability so that they can manage themselves and whatever resources they're going to get more meaningfully. Look at musicians. There are some musicians who have very good talent as a musician, but they live a pauper's life simply because they don't have the cognitive ability to be able to manage their life. That's why if you go back to research, you notice that cognitive ability has got a very high correlation with most of the positive life outcomes. Like I indicated earlier on, as you go up the ladder or into more complex jobs, cognitive ability is required. If you've got a gardener, I'm sure you've all have got maids and gardeners. There are some that are very clever. You don't need to tell them anything, things happen. There are others where you have to push all the time to make things happen. What do you think is making that happen? It's not the environment. It's mostly likely cognitive ability and personality. They may not have the cognitive ability to be able to even handle basic issues to do with house, cleaning the house or looking after the garden. But you must also remember greater effort can compensate for lower cognitive ability in some degree, okay? Greater effort, you don't have a lot of cognitive ability, work hard, okay? In school, we do know that there are some people who rarely read. There are others who have sleepless nights reading. They're just compensating for probably lower cognitive ability compared to their peers. Here's something that was said by Michael Rutter, who is an eminent child psychiatrist. He's actually a Michael Rutter. He said, choose your parents wisely. Okay? Choose your parents wisely. I want you to reflect on that. The lesson here is that parenting is a crucial determinant of child's long-term life chances. As you're sitting there and as a parent, you're determining the life chances that you're giving to your own child, and you can influence that. Okay? Here's some research that was done in the UK. What are the factors that affect early childhood education in terms of how people then, what they gain and lose? For example, the mother's education, you can see positive. Having 3 or more siblings, negative. Limit setting for the child, okay? That is the parameters that you give to the child. Rules, where you set the rules and parameters for a child, positive. Parent-child adolescence, in terms of warmth, positive. Home learning environment, positive. Area of deprivation relates to the economic status of the neighbors that you're living in, negative, okay? Authoritarian parenting, negative. Child is female, positive. Mother age, positive. Informal child care, relative or a friend, positive. Those are some of the things. They are not the only ones. I'm just showing you, just so that you can see there's a lot of literature on parenting based on scientific evidence. There is some literature that is not based on scientific evidence. You need literature that works. You need solutions that work for your own environment. Okay, so when you're choosing a career for a child, these are the things that we assess. General mental ability, basically cognitive ability, which includes verbal, numerical, abstract, spatial ability, mechanical, language usage, and critical thinking. There are others like attention to detail, perceptual speed, and accuracy. We also assess. I'll talk about that. Personality, I've already talked about that. The interest of the child, in some cases, we assess the values. But if the kids are still very young, I will not worry about the values most of the time. I'll focus on the 3: general mental ability, which is the cognitive ability, personality, and the interests. Okay? So cognitive ability comprises the ability to think, which is basically intelligence. The knowledge, the store of true and relevant knowledge. Cognitive ability helps you to store the knowledge and use that knowledge intelligently. Okay. So you may find that some people say, talk about IQ and things like that. IQ is just a scale, okay? It's a British scale with an average of 100. So any cognitive ability can be converted into an IQ scale, or any, because IQ scale is the standard score. You can actually do that. But we rarely use that here. I will tell you the reason why we rarely use IQ here, although we tend to use norms. Okay? So what can you do as a parent to increase the cognitive ability of your children? Here are the key things based on scientific evidence. One is better nutrition for your children, high quality free school lunch. For example, if you go in some countries like Germany, they do offer free school lunch and even a breakfast. It used to happen a year long back during Smith's time, where people used to be provided with milk. There was a strategy in that, because better nutrition early can help someone develop cognitive ability. Health programs, parasite control, clean water and toilets, all these do affect the cognitive development of the child. Family education, the education of parents, reading to children, more books, they do help. Preschool education, which is your creche. Then school education, better education, teachers, discipline teachers, efficient direct instruction, the type of test used, tracking based on ability, all these are all crucial. Okay, then also linking general advancement to ability can also be helpful. Health lifestyles, no smoking, few alcohol. There is, in Germany, there's what is called inductive reasoning training, which is cognitive training. It's done very early for children, but it's not available locally and also a bit expensive in some countries, but it's very helpful. We hope at some stage we'll be able to get to that stage where we can actually go do cognitive training very early for the children. Interest, I've already talked about, and their importance. Personality, these are the personality traits that are very crucial. You would know the big five: agreeableness, conscientiousness, openness to experience, extroversion, neuroticism. Honesty and humility is an additional one. It's now the big six. This is found under the Exaco model, which is the honesty, humility dimension, and this tends to predict whether someone is ethical or not. But for purposes of career guidance, we rarely use it, but we use all the other ones. So what role can parents play in the child's career? Be supportive onlookers, a source of advice, but that advice must be really based on scientific evidence, or what you are seeing on the ground as a parent, based on your own experience. Don't use speculative information to guide your child in terms of career choices. Now that given that cognitive ability and personality are largely hereditary, how can parents help their children navigate their career choices, especially for the less gifted children? Offer them varied activities as possible, as much as possible. I know when we are parenting, remember what we saw there, if you are an authoritarian parent, sometimes it can affect the child. Give your children choices, okay? And watch how they respond. Give them so much exposure, okay? It could be activities, it could be books, it could be games, proper games. All these do help in terms of the cognitive development of the child. They are very crucial. Allowing your children plenty of room to express changing interests, allow them, especially that's why when I give career guidance, even most of the time, if you look at children in Form 1 up to Form 4, sometimes the career choices, even the A level, in terms of their own interests, they are not clear. I will not really pressure them. But the key issue is to give them more exposure so that they can decide what they want. They may change their mind and say they are now in Form 6 and they wanted to be an engineer, but now they don't want that. They want to be a teacher. All those things are all crucial as you do parenting for your children. Let your children grow freely as much as possible. That's, I can't overemphasize. Let your children grow more freely as much as possible. Give them choices, okay? Read books to them. Maths, constructive social interaction. Let them look after their personal health care and critical thinking, very important. In other countries, they've already started critical thinking in preschool, okay? What else can you do? Talk to the children, listen constructively, ask them what they think about things around them. What should we eat today? Okay? Offer them choices about activities. Let them make decisions about things in their life, bigger things as they grow up, as they grow older. Okay, so when you set behavioral expectation and punishment, explain why. Parents do have a role to set behavioral expectation and also punishment, but explain so that they know what was wrong and why I should not repeat it again. Okay, so ask them questions and try answers, let them answer themselves. Exploratory behavior is encouraged early for your children. Let them explore, okay? If they want to be a doctor, take them to a hospital they must see, okay? You may find a child in very early, they may be terrified to be in a hospital, but as they grow older, Form 1, they are interested, take them again to the hospital. In some cases, they actually have got attachment where you can allow your child to go into a factory and see what happens there. After a few days, they may decide, no, this is not what I can't do this for the rest of my life. They may decide to change. Show that when you're working on something, let them be there and figure out how we are doing it. We talked about the variety of experience. Can parents shape the personality of their children? Remember, we said partly childhood experience, partly hereditary. A bigger chunk hereditary, a smaller chunk, roughly 15%, let's just say 25% can be influenced by the environment. Yes, you can influence the personality of the child by giving reinforcements in terms of the right behavior, but also you must focus more importantly on the internal experience rather than the material world. Are they enjoying what they're doing? When you give them some form of reinforcement, are they loving it? Okay, the things that interest them more, reinforce those if they are socially desirable. Okay, if you look across, you will notice that cognitive ability tend to be highly stable. There's a lot of research, just to show you some of the research that shows that cognitive ability is highly stable. Okay, here is a study that was done in 1948, assessed intelligence at age 8 to 18 and found the test-retest correlation at 0.7. So test you, age 8 at 18, the correlation between your scores 0.7. In another study, okay, age 4, age 14, and age 29, correlation 0.64. At adulthood, it was now 0.8. At least 50% of the variance in late life cognitive performance can be attributed to child cognitive ability. Very important to take note of that. So when you are doing career guidance, what are the tests that we give? And I will explain each one of them in detail and what is the significance. These are the tests that we give. All these tests have nothing to do with what the child is learning in school. They've got everything to do with what they've inherited from you, the parents, not necessarily the direct parents. They've got everything to do with what the children inherited from the environment that they grew in. So verbal reasoning, which is not the ability to speak English, but the logic in what someone writes and says. There are some people who speak English extremely well, which is measured by English language. But what they write has no logic. Or when they present certain things, there's no logic. Okay? So that's the difference. Verbal reasoning is the logic in what someone writes and says. And you can already see from that the careers that are suitable for someone with very high verbal reasoning. Okay? Then language usage. It's important across all professions, but more important in other careers. If you want to be a lawyer, if you want to be a marketer, if you want to be in sales, if you want to be in management, verbal reasoning will be crucial. Language usage will be crucial. Critical thinking will be crucial. Those top 3 will be very crucial. Out of these top 3, you will notice that language usage can be trained, critical thinking can be trained, verbal reasoning is part of what is called general mental ability, which is GMA, which is the cognitive ability. It's rarely trained, it's largely hereditary, like I indicated. But it influences how you are going to assimilate in terms of language, how are you going to learn language. Critical thinking can be taught. In actual fact, there is a correlation between age and critical thinking. The more exposure your child has, the more exposure and the quality of the environment that they're exposed to, the better their critical thinking. Okay, as you can see now, people who have got better critical thinking make better decisions, even as managers, generally in life. Okay, let me give you an example that I experienced some time back. I think about 5 years back. I had a student on attachment because we're in human resources, we're in occupational psychology. I gave a 5 contact details for candidates that were supposed to be called for an interview. And there was a phone number, there was a landline, there was a cell number, landline, and an email. So what they did first is they went and phoned on the landline, and they came back to me and said, I can't find, there were two countries that they couldn't find. I can't find Mr. So-and-so. I said, what did you do? I phoned on the line, landline. I said, did you phone on the mobile phone? He said, no, because he didn't tell me to do that. I said, go and phone on the landline, on the mobile phone, sorry. Managed to get the other country. The last country came back again and said, I couldn't find them. I said, so what is the solution? I said, I don't know. I said, can you try to send an email? But you keep trying. You can see that person has no critical thinking. If someone is with no critical thinking, they can't think beyond what they're given. They can't think beyond what they're seeing at face value. Critical thinkers go deeper than what is presented to them at face value. Okay? Critical thinkers use evidence to make decisions. You can already see what professions require that. Although critical thinking is required across all professions, it's more important in other professions. Lawyers, management, strategic roles, thought leadership, advisors to the president, advisors to CEOs, all these need to be critical thinkers. But you benefit more if you can get your children to have good critical thinking skills, where they make better decisions naturally in life. The numerical reasoning, this is your maths. There are people who are born with natural numerical reasoning, and everyone has got some form of natural numerical reasoning that they have. When we are testing people for career guidance, that's what we are tapping into. We are not tapping into what they've learned in school. If you have gone through the test, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. You can't study for that test. It's not possible. Okay, even if you go and study for that test, chances of you getting an extra 2 or 3 scores because you've studied is almost zero. You can get an extra score. You can get an extra score, but it may not take you out of the normal percentile range for interpretation of your results. So there's no benefit. Abstract reasoning, others prefer to call it a measure of raw intelligence. It's a non-verbal reasoning test, nothing written there except shapes. We can give that test alone, and we'll be able to tell whether the person is clever or not, just on that test alone. You can't study it, it's natural. If I test you in Form 1, if you've got abstract reasoning, I test you in Form 4, nothing will have changed. The correlation, like we saw, will be very high. Whether I test you in Form 1, I test you in upper 6, it will be the same, very stable. Mechanical reasoning, this is reasoning with mechanical objects. Okay, people who have got mechanical reasoning tend to go into fields like all the fields that require mechanical reasoning. There are many of them that require mechanical reasoning. Spatial ability, more or less related to abstract reasoning. It's again shapes, how you reason with 3-dimensional objects. Okay, so if you look at the blue, highlighted blue tests, those will tell us whether the person is a science-oriented person, and they should go the science route. Sorry. Or the black ones, the bold ones, will tell us whether the person should go arts, the person should go social sciences, the person should go lawyer, marketer, and all those things. That's what they need. Okay, so based on the verbal, on the cognitive ability alone, you can already see we are already separating people. Does this person have what it takes to do sciences? It's going to be computer programming, electrical engineering, data scientists, actuary, architect. There is no way you can take someone to be an architect with no abstract reasoning or spatial ability, even mechanical reasoning. There's no way you can take someone to be an actuary with low numerical, with very poor numerical reasoning. It's not possible. Computer programming, you would need numerical reasoning, you need abstract reasoning, you need mechanical reasoning, you need spatial ability. So on that basis alone, you can already tell what you should do. For example, if someone is very good in let's start at the top there, if someone is very good in verbal reasoning, critical thinking, and language usage, at A level, these people must go arts and commercial. Arts and commercial, they'll do very well. When we say what we are testing here is not testing effort, we are testing people to find their natural ability. It has nothing to do with what they're learning at school now. What they're learning at school now is icing on the cake. Okay? We want to base their career choices on what is naturally gifted to them. Okay? So if you force your child and say, you know what, I want you to do English language at A level, I wanted to do history at A level. I wanted to do geography at A level. When they've got very poor verbal reasoning, low critical thinking, poor language usage, they will struggle. Okay, they will struggle. They will think others they've learned it before, simply because they have been directed into the wrong kind of career subject choices. Then as you go into numerical reasoning, abstract reasoning, mechanical reasoning, spatial ability, you will notice that these are the sciences. But in some cases, you got kids, very rare combination, very poor numerical ability, but very high abstract reasoning, very high mechanical reasoning, very high spatial ability. And those kids must avoid subjects that require heavy maths. They must go into biology, they must go into chemistry to some extent, they must go into geography, those subjects that do not require heavy maths. But for those subjects that require heavy maths, you would need someone to at least score above average on numerical reasoning, at least above average numerical reasoning. I will show you how we interpret those results after the test. Okay, as you go to perceptual speed and accuracy, these are required. It's basically the last two, they're basically looking at attention to detail. We do have another one that I didn't include. The spelling, spelling is also important for those that are going to arts. In actual fact, it's required across all professions, but more importantly for those that are going to be lawyers, those that are going to be marketers. You can't be producing things that are with mistakes, with spelling mistakes, but it's required across all professions. But more weight is given to those that are highlighted in bold in terms of one, choosing subjects at O level, choosing subjects if the child goes into A level. It's actually more important for you to have your child choose these subjects early, form 2, form 3, depending on how early you want to do it. Others do very early, because you can then focus your investment into the right subjects. It doesn't necessarily mean they have to ignore the other subjects, but you know you're not going to waste money forcing someone to go into a particular subject. I'll tell you stories from some of the tests that we've done over the years and how parents have taken those. Then the big 5 personality traits. So this part is basically the cognitive ability, which is the foundation of any career. But like I indicated earlier on, you may find people who are interested in sports. Okay, no problem. Some of them will score very high on mechanical reasoning, and some of them on spatial ability. It's okay. But because sports is most of the time physical, but you will still need them to have some form of level of general mental ability. The tests that constitute what is called GMA, or general mental ability, is verbal reasoning, abstract reasoning, and numerical reasoning. Those 3. You can actually convert the total score into an intelligence score, an IQ score, using those 3. Okay, they are called the core. You're lucky if your child has got those core: verbal reasoning, numerical reasoning, abstract reasoning. Then the rest can come in terms of finer choices, but those are the foundation that you need to have. Then on personality, we have those big 5. Openness to experience. That speaks to how receptive is someone to new ways of doing things. Okay, it's related to innovation. Conscientiousness, if you look at latest research and previous research, conscientiousness predicts a success across all careers. People who are with low conscientiousness do badly, even if they're intelligent. Well, let me explain what I mean there. If someone is highly conscientious, it means they're very diligent. They plan their things, they get things done. They don't wait to be pushed to get things done. Okay? They're basically driving, they're self-driven. They make things happen on their own. Imagine having a child like that. Imagine having a worker like that, where when you agree on something, you don't even need to go back and say, how far are you? Have you done it? You need to send the reminders to them to get things done. Or they'll tell you, I'm almost done. It's in progress. Almost done. Those kind of statements are given by people who have very low conscientiousness. It's a predictor across all professions. So when we are doing career guidance, we also tend to assess this so that we can alert you in advance as a parent if there are any issues that you may need to be aware of. Post conscientiousness, if they are still young, you can still try to make sure that they may get help in terms of planning their work, so that at least they can be able to, because if they are not highly conscientious, they will also struggle to get into serious professions where people need to work and get things done. The extroversion speaks to whether someone is reserved or outgoing. It doesn't matter. It matters if someone wants to go into a career that requires someone to be extroverted: marketing, sales, human resources, sometimes where you're going to speak to people, where you're going to socialize and interact with people. The danger is that if someone goes into a career that is contrary to their own personality. They struggle, they suffer stress. Okay, imagine someone who is highly reserved and you put them at reception. They answer phones, or you ask them to go and visit clients every day. That becomes their job. They will be stressed. They may actually end up quitting the job. Agreeableness speaks to how agreeable someone is. People who are the opposite of agreeableness, people who are very argumentative. Sometimes even if they don't know what is being said, they will start arguing. I'm sure you've met people like that. The moment you say something, without even you finishing, they're already arguing. Very argumentative. And some of these people can actually cause commotion in the team and things like that. For jobs that require service orientation, agreeableness is the trait that is required. Those that are going to go into social environments like hospitals, you require agreeableness. And also customer care, you require someone who is highly agreeable. People who are highly agreeable, they've got high frustration tolerance. They don't get angry very quickly. They don't get offended by some of the statements that customers say, the questions that customer will ask. The neuroticism, or what we call adjustment. Neuroticism speaks to how stable someone is emotionally. This speaks to the level of anxiety that someone is. High levels of anxiety can create problems for you, for your child. And what you are noticing sometimes is that most of the children have got are poorly adjusted, and they have got some high levels of neuroticism in them. It could be as a result of growing up, how they've been growing up within the home environment, especially, and sometimes at school. So neuroticism is very crucial. But if people are highly neurotic, they will have problems in life. And if you have read the thing that we read about people in leadership who are highly, people have cited Trump before, people who are narcissists, basically people who their focus is basically self-praise. They love themselves too much to the extent that everything else has to revolve around them, okay? Those people start from this angle of being highly neurotic, okay? And even people who then develop into personality problems like a psychopath, they all start from here. So it's actually important for you as a parent to know the level of neuroticism or adjustment scale that your child is falling under, so that it will help in terms of the careers. When we give career guidance, we also help these careers. For example, imagine you've got someone who wants to be a pilot and a highly neurotic person. What is likely to happen if they get offended? Okay, they're likely to experience high levels of anxiety. Remember that German Wings, a pilot who took the plane and just crashed into the mountains. It actually started from this particular personality trait. If you read the report, the accident report from that. Okay, so personality and interests predict occupational fit and satisfaction. Very crucial. We don't ignore them. Then the interest, we do use these interesting environments, realistic environments, investigative, artistic, social, enterprising, and conventional environment. These are the environment that we use. Just briefly, as I go to show you some of the graphs that when you interpret the test, realistic environments require manual or physical activity. So when you give the person this test or this questionnaire, it will show whether they require physical or they prefer to work in an environment where they have to use their manual labor or physical activities. Use of tools and equipment. For example, someone who scores very high on mechanical reasoning also comes to this interest inventory and scores very high on realistic environment, which means really they're a hands-on person who likes using tools. Investigative environment, this is where you find your more scientific professions, physicians, biologists, laboratory technicians. Artistic environment requires working through various media to express oneself. Actors, musicians, architects, and photographers tend to fall into this environment. Social environment is really interaction with the people, teaching, helping others. Because the environment is one of warmth and nurturance. Enterprising environment is coordinating others. This is where managers, those who want to be in management, this is where they fall under in terms of their interests. But remember, like I said, these interests do shift with more exposure, especially for the children. So I will not worry if I find any of the children in the red zone, what you call the red zone. They may still be exploring. Conventional environment requires working with numbers, basically computers, adding, office equipment, adding numbers. This is the environment. Okay, so that's how also we talked about cognitive ability, personality, and interest. We also talked about choice of subjects. Okay, here is one of the factual information that you may need to be aware of. When someone gets straight A's at A level, at O level, it doesn't necessarily mean they've got ability in all those areas most of the time. It could just mean that they've worked hard to achieve those kind of that kind of performance. So you don't rely entirely on the basis of subject. There are people who have got straight A's at A level, at O level, go on to A level and get 0 points at A level. And most people are saying, but this person was very clever, very intelligent and everything. No, they may actually have worked very hard, or it was just by chance alone. They just found things that they've read. Very possible. Okay. So the true ability of an individual does not come simply because of the symbols that they get at O level. No, most of the time, no. The true ability comes from testing where we actually tap into their natural. There is a relationship. We tap into their natural ability. But there are also outliers where you find your child can score straight A's at A level, then go to A level and get D's, get E's and everything. And people say, I was playing or she was playing. Most of the time it's not that. Most of the time that it just means you chose subjects for them in which they had to exert a lot of effort. And as you go into A level, it becomes even much harder, where effort plays very little part, but true ability start playing out as you go into A level. That's why this is so important. But also as you're choosing those A-level subjects, or as you're choosing subjects from the beginning, you must also, at the back of your mind, remember that at university, you must know exactly, if the child wants to be a lawyer after the assessment, going forward, you must then say to yourself, what do they need to go to do in order for them to be a lawyer? And we find that they've got all the requisite cognitive ability to be a lawyer. For example, if you look at the University of Zimbabwe, unless they've changed, you realize that what matters is that you must have English. It has to be a B in English at O level, nothing else. And you must have 14, 15 points in whatever subjects. Okay. So why would you punish your child if they want to be a lawyer for them to go and do physics? Or for them to go and do a very difficult subject and get very little points? If you are going to subjects of that nature, target to have the subjects where they're going to get the highest points. It doesn't matter what you did at O level, matters very little in terms of degree choices some of the time. Matters very little. There are areas, yes, for example, if you want to do computer science, the major subject is maths at A level. A particular symbol, they used to say a C, sometimes the B, that matters. So knowing that can also help in terms of subject choices. There is no need to burden your child with very complicated, difficult subjects where they're going to get 2 points when they could have done, for the same career option that they have, they could have done other subjects to give them a head start in terms of points. Okay? There are so many children that are disappointed now who have failed to go to university simply because they wanted to look important and chose very difficult subjects, sometimes not even in line with their cognitive ability, because they want to look important. You know, when we were going to school, people used to say, I'm doing MPC, and I'll be doing my commercial and arts. I get my 14 points, the person get 2 points. And what do they do? They have to look for something else to do, and they miss out on university. If they're lucky, they can still go into university. They can also still go into other areas, like we do have School of Mines. We do have apprenticeship. Most of the mining companies, big companies, offer apprenticeship. Those are career options. If you go look at how much artisans are earning in South Africa, especially the class one, they earn a lot of money. But someone chooses a career to just go to university and earn very little. All those are options, but those are for you as parents to choose. Let's look at this. This is the profile that when we do assessment, this is what we get. You can see this is the cognitive profile. You can see this person is basically a genius to some extent when you look at some of the subjects there. Verbal reasoning, 96%. When we are interpreting the test, just for forgotten that. Let's say your child comes and writes the test and they get it 35 out of 40. At face value, they've done very well. But when you're interpreting this test, when you say if they've done well or not, just by looking at the raw score out of the total score, we say we don't know. We have to go and compare them to a norm group. There's a norm group for every level. We go there and say, okay, your child got 35 out of 40 in verbal reasoning, but they are the last. They're actually only 2%. They're the bottom 2%. They are in the bottom 2% with that 35. Okay, so it's not about the raw score. It's about how competitive they are when compared to a norm group. So those percentile rankings, these percentile rankings, I can actually convert them back to IQ scores. For example, if I combine verbal reasoning, numerical, and abstract reasoning, the top three, I can actually, like for this individual, you can see 96, 93, 93, which means their IQ roughly is around 116, 118, 116, 118, 116. I don't have the conversion table here, but around that you can see the very intelligent person, just on the basis of the first three tests. Okay. Then mechanical reasoning, 90 percentile, spatial ability, space relations, spatial ability, 95 percentile, spelling, average range, language usage, 85 percentile, logic and reasoning, 50 percentile, perceptual speed and accuracy, 64 percentile, attention to detail, 21 percentile, critical thinking, 90 percentile. So this particular child can decide whether to choose sciences or to choose non-sciences, okay? Because they are good. What will constrain them, for example, is if they want to choose social sciences and languages, they are average on spelling. You can see they are not doing very well on spelling, logic and reasoning as well, critical thinking 90, perceptual speed and accuracy, attention to detail. You can see the attention to detail not very good, 21% in the bottom, 25%. Okay, but that's not a major issue. That attention to detail, you can maybe train them to work on them. Verbal reasoning, numerical reasoning, abstract reasoning, mechanical reasoning, and spatial ability, those can be trained. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the top 5 can be trained. As I indicated, largely hereditary and partly childhood experience. What can be trained are spelling, language usage, logic and reasoning, perceptual speed, attention to detail, critical thinking. These can be trained. But the top 6 that I have talked about, the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the top 5 are the foundation of any career from a cognitive ability point of view. So you need to have, so this is what you get. So assuming your child, let me go to the other one that I, let's say your child has got this kind of profile here on your left, in the left, you can see there is no straight path there. They are not good in science. They are not good in non-sciences, but slightly better in verbal reasoning and slightly better, okay on perceptual speed and accurate spelling. So if it's an option, they are really non-science, they have to choose either commercial or the arts. Then we come to career quest, which is the interest. You can see there, where it goes into the green zone, it's a good fit. Okay, social, enterprising, conventional environment. This uses a different scale, there's not percentile. You can see. So that's what we use, look at, and we explore that with the parents. We say, your child wants to be working in a social environment, but their cognitive ability, let's say if it was this child with very good science performance, and we come here and they want to work in a hospital or be a teacher. Sometimes some parents may say, no. But you can see they also good in, they also got a good fit in enterprise in conventional environments, which is basically your science as well. It can accommodate people from the sciences. Then comprehensive personality assessment, you can see the problems. Problems that this may not manifest now, but most of the time when I give feedback to the parents, they actually confess this is what they are saying. Okay, you can see this person highly conscientious, above average. The rest, ambition 0, intellect 0. Intellect is the level of curiosity. Service orientation is agreeableness, which is really can they work in a service-oriented job. Adjustment, poorly adjusted, openness to experience. Are they receptive to new ways of doing things? No, they are reserved. We then match these 3 and see where there are anomalies in terms of career choices going forward. But for purpose of choosing subjects for A-level, this is the master plan, basically. Cognitive ability, this one. This is the master plan for choosing the subject at A-level. And you can't go wrong if someone, unless they get sick. If you look at this child, if they go and choose maths, they will score, they will take it. If they go and choose physics, they will take it. If they go and choose biology, they will take it. Probably A in all of them, okay? Unless they get sick. But if their scores were in the reds or in the yellow there, they may do well, but on average, they will get D's and C's. But if they're in reds, it could actually imply they may actually not do well. But remember, we said some people can compensate for low cognitive ability with working hard, reading extremely hard. They can cruise through with marginal symbols like your C and D. Okay, as I close, is a very interesting quote from Einstein. He said, I want to oppose the idea that the school has to teach directly that special knowledge and those accomplishments, which one is to use later directly in life. If you want to read this, I read this a lot, Ideas and Opinion, page 62. He went on to say, the development of general ability for independent thinking and judgment should always be placed foremost, not the acquisition of special knowledge. If a person masters the fundamentals of his subjects and learn to think and work independently, he will surely find his way, and besides, he will better be able to adapt himself to the progress and changes that a person whose training principally consists in the acquiring of detailed knowledge. Okay, I will now take questions. That's my presentation. I will now take questions. If you've got any questions, either you can just unmute yourself and ask a question, or you can put the question in the chat room. Any questions? Yes.
Memory, I want to ask you.
Yes.
In terms of where do you actually do this test from?
We do them at the office, but we also have an online platform. There's an invigilation module that invigilate via. They have to have a camera on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever computer they're using must have a camera, so that we know the person who is writing the test is the correct person.
And is there any specific timelines that are best? Like I'm in a situation where we just doing subject choices for next year for my daughter who's in Form 2 now. And listening to you, I think I made some mistakes on the guy who's doing his A-levels now. If we were to schedule, do we have to schedule those?
Yeah, you just, I think we shared the details. We can share again at the end. You can just email us and book. It's very easy. We book, they write whenever they are available.
Okay.
Then the report comes instantly. What I normally prefer to do is once the report is out, I don't want to email it to you before I interpret it for you. So we schedule a Skype or a Zoom meeting where I take you through the whole report. You ask me questions, then I will send you the report for you to file and keep and constantly refer to it even for the future.
Okay. All right. No, that's fine. No, thanks for
that. Okay, Memory, I wanted to ask a question regarding the cognitive abilities. I presume it's quite easier to judge a child who's got one area in the red and maybe multiple areas in the green. But most often, as parents, what worries us are the children where maybe they are mostly on the red and the orange. And you find out, let me just say, their numerical reasoning is much higher. And you always doubt, like, can this person then go ahead and do maths at A-level when all the other, the numerical ability is the better one, but still it's in the orange.
Yeah, normally what we do is, what we advise is, if someone has got numerical ability as an outlier, is the only one in the orange, the other ones are in reds. We don't encourage you to go and do the sciences. We encourage them to choose commercials so that they can still utilize their numerical reasoning in commercial, for example, economics, business studies, and other commercials. Because you need some form of accounts, you need some form of calculation in those subjects. But for someone who is scoring in the 30th percentile, for example, to then choose A-level maths, they can achieve it, but it means they will need to be really work extremely hard. They will be tired basically every day, trying to make sure that they compete with other kids. Remember that your child will be in the same class, most likely, with someone with this same child that we're talking about, this one. Okay, so they will be in this person who is going to score in 93rd percentile, which means they're in the top 10 national norm group. Even if I were to compare them to the British norms, for example, it's very likely they are in the same 90th percentile range. American norms, the same. You take that same child and this child, and then this will probably be this child that you are referring to, but obviously with the high numerical reasoning there. I would not recommend that. Normally, people who score, they are outliers, yes. There are some people who score slightly above average, even 55% on numerical reasoning, but the rest are in red or yellow. What we recommend is that it's much easier to do the non-sciences with that kind of backbone of some numerical reasoning above average. Commercials first, then they can do the arts next. But if they are going to go into the arts, it will also depend on how they've scored on verbal reasoning. For example, we had the scenario where someone was scoring verbal reasoning 5%, language usage 2%, spelling 3%. You can already see that that person will struggle, especially where there's high verbal reasoning required, like writing in history, writing in geography. They may actually struggle to go through that. They can still go through that, but you can imagine how are they going to do in university and the other colleges that they may decide to go into. But these nitty-gritties, we go deeper into them once we look at the child. If I look at all the feedback that I have given, no one has disputed the results of especially the cognitive ability and the personality one. Not a single one is disputed. I know we had one. This one is disputed. Let me give you an example. It's a very, very useful example. The parents, what they did is the child is written O-level in Masvingo there, and they came and the child took the assessments. And when they came back, the child was in the red on all the science-linked tests. And they were doing well on verbal reasoning and critical thinking above average. When I presented to the parent that this child cannot go and do sciences, they must do either commercial or the arts, they were very angry because they told me that their child, they've always found him to be liking sciences and they put enough pressure on him to do the sciences. Luckily, 3 days later, the results were out. In actual fact, the father walked out of my presentation and was giving them the results. 3 days later, the father and the mother came back and said, you were right. The results from O-level actually showing that he can't do sciences. We called in the child and said, yeah, the results that I found for you, and this is what you got. Then he told them point blank that when he was at school, he was trying to manage them by showing interest in the science because they had put too much pressure on him. But he had no interest. He had no ability to be able to go and do the sciences at A-level. That's what the discussion that we then ended up having. That's why it's so good sometimes to get scientific evidence. Say, look, I'm sure even your children, you have got some kind of idea. This one seems to be good in math, but how far good is it? Is it good enough for you to be able to allow them to go and do the sciences and pursue maths at A-level? Sometimes no, it may not be, because it will be probably in the average range. Okay. Any other question? Okay, if there are no questions, I would like to thank you very much, and also for Peterhouse for allowing us to speak to the parents. We have already done quite a number of tests for people from kids from Peterhouse. And if I would share you with some of the comments, most the parents wrote back, most of them, to thank us via email or WhatsApp, indicating how happy they were in terms of what came out of the assessment. Otherwise, thank you very much. Should you require any assistance, I'll put the email there for you to book in the chat room. That's the email, number 481946 up to 49. That's the obvious. That's Harare number. Those are the numbers where you can find us, or even from the school career guidance center, you can get our number. We're in constant touch with them. They can give you the contact details for us, and we can test weekend whenever the child is available. But When it comes to then giving feedback, I would require the parents, one of the parents or both, to be available so that you get value out of this assessment. I don't want normally to just speak to the child. I do, if the child is anxious to get their feedback, I will do, but I still insist on speaking to the parents so that they can harness the value that is coming out of this particular report. Otherwise, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day.